Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Mindset course and welcome to this very interesting session on how will you measure your life by Clayton Christensen part 2. Once again, to measure one's life, to measure one's success, Professor Clayton has done a phenomenal work on that, and we'll be going into further detail in trying to understand how he applied various frameworks and various theories. So Professor Clayton says that his Harvard Business School classes are structured in a way in which the students are trained to use and apply management theories. So management theories are in a way a sort of a lens. So there are various theories and each theory is a different lens, and you use these lenses to look at a phenomena from different perspectives. So there are different theories. Then we have the resource-based view of the firm, we have the competency theory of the firm, and we have the network theories, and we have the institutional theories. So we look at the phenomena from various perspectives. So, and he says that his sessions help students to know what is good management theory and how it is built, and he used these models and theories which help students to think about the various dimensions of a general manager's job, and they're able to see which company is doing good, what is bad. So in this course which he used to teach, they keep on looking at a company in every class, and through these lenses to explain how the company got into that situation, what went wrong, what went good, and then they examine what was the role of them. So he says that this course goes on, and in those sessions they go through various cases, and on the last day of the class he asks the students to turn those theoretical lenses on themselves, to look at on themselves how does that theory imply to their lives, and he asks them to find answers to these three questions. Number one, how can I be sure that I'll be happy in my career, have good relationship with my spouse, or enduring source of happiness, and how I will stay out of jail. And this he talks that surprisingly 32 people of his class in Rhodes, Jeff Skilling of the Enron fame was a classmate, and they were good guys, but something in their lives sent them off in the wrong direction. So we'll talk about that in detail. So these are the three questions which answers are being sought in this course, and then he applies various theories on that. So these are the three questions. So Clayton applies the Frederick Herzberg theory to understand how to get a happy career, and they look at from the application in the business perspective, and then at the end of the course they try to apply it towards the personal life of the individual as a human being. When I apply this theory on myself, what are the implications for me? So this is for the company, and then he used the strategy theory, how to make sure that my happiness is enduring. It's a strategy for life. It is a source of happiness for a sustainable time, which is sustainable and for a longer duration. And then the life of integrity. He uses the marginal cost theory and see how can it help in a life of integrity in business, and how it can be in one's individual. So we'll be talking all of these theories in detail, and at the end of the session we will be in a position to apply in our own self and see what is working. So the first theory, that is the Herzberg's theory, which is applied to ensure to see and check to have a happy career. So Professor Herzberg's theory says that happiness and success, money alone. So powerful motivators in life is not money alone. It is opportunity to learn, grow in responsibilities, contribute to others, and recognition. So these are a lot of things beyond money, and they make people do something. They motivate people. They get great things out of them. So Professor Clayton highlights a very interesting a fictional story in this article. He says that he was the CEO, and he just visualized that one of his team member, when she leaves the place with low self-esteem, unappreciated, frustrated, underutilized, and demeaned. So the impact as she goes to her house, so the same impact travels with her to the house. Her dealing with the spouse, the kids, and so on is altogether different. And when the same lady when she goes appreciated, motivated, and full of self-esteem, then the whole, you see her after work hours spent different way. So he says that as a CEO, my role is to help her have a high self-esteem, to contribute to others. So the dilemma is that the MBA students, the high achievers, the high flyers who want to gain quick successes in a very short period of time, they come to the business school thinking that career is business. In businesses, just buying, selling, and investing in companies. So this is unfortunate because that makes you think that money is the only motivator, and we ignore these motivators, and this is unfortunate. And doing deals does not yield. So deals and these money making things do not yield the deep rewards that come from building up people. So this is a dilemma with the high flyer models, the top business schools, and the top universities, that this is ignored and this is left on. And then we come to the second theory and we try to apply that in business, and then we'll bring it into our own life as well later on. That is strategy. There's theories of strategy. What do we mean by strategy? Strategy is that you think into the future and you want to see your company great in the next 15, 20, 30 years. So he says that the resources are allocated based on a strategy. So you make a strategy, you allocate resources, and the decision-making systems are designed in such a way to direct your investments in those areas which give you tangible and immediate tangible returns, which can be felt, which can be measured, which can be seen and quick. So this is the problem with the company's strategy, that this is what the management invests. And he says that's a very big question, that the resources are not allocated masterfully, and then you can't get the results which are intended. So because the decision making systems are designed in such a way in these corporations that they're looking for the tangible and the immediate returns, what happens is these managers, they go for the short term rather than the long term. So all our priorities move toward the long term, because long term will, who knows when these things will be seen. So they move toward the short term. So he says that when we apply the same theory into our individual life, and when he sees people unhappy, divorced, and alienated from kids, so he finds out that none of them graduated with the strategy. Why? Because they did not keep the purpose of life in front. And without purpose, life is a hollow part of thing. So the same lens when applied on the business and individual, so he looks into detail that these people who graduated, 900 people came to Harvard, and when they come to your reunions, he watched them to be unhappy, divorced, alienated. He said, I can guarantee you none of them graduated with that strategy. But a shocking number of them implemented that. And because, once again, that strategy problem, immediate and tangible returns. And he says that these 900 people who come to Harvard, these are not ordinary people. These are the high GMAT score people, SAT scores, and these are the ones who went through a very tough and competitive, cutthroat competition and came here. And he says that I tell these students here that SPS might be one of their last chances to reflect on this question, the purpose. And this says that I think if they think that they'll have more time in future to find it out, they're nuts. Because as time passes, their life will be more demanding. You take on mortgage, you work 70 hours, you will never get a family and kids. So you will never know the purpose of your life. So it's very important to know it as soon as possible. And then he talks about his own experiences as a Rhodes Scholar when he was in a very demanding academic program, tried to do an extra year's work. And he said that even during those tough times, he somehow decided to spend 1 hour every night reading, thinking, and praying why God put me on this earth. It's a very interesting question. And why God put me on this earth? Is it by random, by chance, by design? So he said for him, having a clear purpose in life was essential, and it was something he had to think long before he understood. So he said that as he kept on spending every hour in doing this, and this became a very challenging commitment to keep, because he had to study a lot of things. He was stuck with applied econometrics, a pretty difficult subject, and he had to take 1 hour out of that. And he was confused whether he would really do it, can afford it or not. But he says, I stuck with it, I persevered, and ultimately I figured out the purpose of my life. So this is one thing very interesting. And then he says that had I spent that hour each day learning the latest techniques of autocorrelation and regression, and he says, oh my God, I would have badly misspent my life. Badly misspent my life, because the tools of econometrics and the tools of regression are used a few times a year, but I apply the knowledge of the purpose of my life every day. It is the single most useful thing I have ever learned. So he said, I just escaped a disaster. And he then tells the students that I promise my students that if they take time to figure out their life purpose, they'll look back on it as the most important and most interesting thing they discovered at HBS. And if they don't do it, he warns that if you don't figure it out and you just sail off without a rudder and your sails are not working, and what will happen as you move into deep waters and rough seas of life, your ship will be knocked down, man, knocked down. So he says that clarity about purpose is more important than the traditional tools which are being taught. So in a way, if you have a weighing balance, and on one side we put all these tools which we learn in our MBA program in this part of the balance: activity-based accounting, balance scorecard, core competence, marketing, 5 forces. So these are strategy courses, marketing courses, and all accounting courses. Put all on this one side. So all disruptive innovation courses. If you put all these courses on one side of the balance, you see this one course on purpose will trump all of them. That is the importance of the purpose of life. And he says, and then he further says that if you apply the same theory in your personal life, so you see that how your decisions about allocating your personal time, energy, and talent is to shape your life strategy. So similarly, like in a corporation, we have to allocate resources for different projects. So these are different projects. For this project, I'm allocating this. So I have different projects. So I'm allocating different resources for different projects. And you see, if you are looking in the short term and looking in the tangibles, then what happens? You misinvest your resources. The outcomes can be bad. And this is, he said, that I think his former classmates inadvertently invested for lives of hollow and happiness. And that was the troubles coming back from short-term perspective. So this is what he says, that explains it further, that these high achievers, the HBS and then all other business schools, the top ones, what they do is they allocate every extra hour, every extra minute, every extra energy. You see, they invest in those things that yield the most tangible results. So it could be product design, marketing, and investing in relationships, spouse and kids and family and grandparents, and your religion and your relationship with God does not offer immediate sense of it. So they underinvest, overinvest in their careers. Immediate gratitude. So you ship a product, finish a design, complete a presentation, close a sale, teach a class, publish a paper, get paid and get promoted. So this is what these high achievers are doing, and at the cost of something great, which they will come to know. So in contrast, investing time in your relationships does not offer that sense of achievement. And one knows after 20 years when you feel that you raised a very poor and very bad son or a daughter. And so that's why at this point of time Clayton says that he has a pretty good idea that he has created enormous amount of revenues for companies and for himself and using his research. But he says that as he gets old and as he gets sick and he gets in this chronic disease, he sees how unimportant this impact is to him. So he says that I have concluded that the metric by which God will assess my life is not dollars. So dollars is not that important. The individual people whose lives I have touched was the parameter. So let's look at the third theory, and that is and that how to live a life of integrity, how to avoid jails. And he says that in the management programs we are taught finance and economics. In finance and economics, they are taught that in evaluating alternative investments, we should ignore sunk and fixed costs and instead base decisions on marginal costs and marginal revenues. So let's assume this is a manufacturing facility. Has been made. It is making steel. It is working up and right, up and fine, and they're making money. And then they found they want to do a new project. They want to add on something. So the traditional finance and economics says is that if you want to expand, then you ignore the sunk costs and look at the marginal revenue and the marginal benefits and the marginal cost, which is bring and look at the various options, option A, B, or C maybe. So look at the various options and see which option is better in terms of lower marginal cost and higher marginal revenues. So so if this option is, for example, has a lesser marginal cost and then this or C, then we will go for this, because with less amount of additional spending we can expand our existing production. So here there's a catch here, and in this course, Clayton says that this doctrine biases companies in a very interesting way. It biases companies to leverage what they have put in place to succeed in the past. So if this steel mill was succeeding in the past due to heavy machinery, due to large economies of scale and bigger units and the highest quality steel, so this is your previous capability in your previous technology. So you will try to go for a marginal increase in spending and try to you have the sunk cost is not being considered, but you are using your previous capabilities and technology with a small additional cost to do something new. So the problem is that they don't look at new capabilities. This makes you chained. This becomes a chain to your feet and to the previous capability and the previous technology, and you stay in the past. You stay in the past, and you're chained, and you do anything additional and incremental based on that, because you have removed the sunk cost. To you, it's an illusion that it is free, it is cheaper, and it is of low cost, and that becomes an illusion to you, and you go for additional lesser incremental costs, and you go with that. So he says that this is a good thing. If the future would be exactly the same as the past, then this approach is fine. But if the future is different, and it almost always is, then this is the wrong thing to do. That could be catastrophic failure. So this is the same thing that happened with the steel industry, and large companies were increasing and expanding based on their marginal cost decisions, and the new companies, the people who were very innovative and creative, they came up with an alternative model which was of different technology, much cheaper, much lean, much small, less people, very low cost, and they went into the lowest and bottom segment, the cheapest steel, and they started making in a very less place, less energy, and the low cost. So these big giants said, hey, these people will be out because they are not going into the higher segments, but eventually they with more R&D, more innovation, more entrepreneurship, and the same steel mills after a few years were making highest grade steel and for the higher segments at a very low cost, and these whole steel mills, they went out of business. So that is a very interesting thing, that the marginal cost mistake tempts you to do something which apparently seems to be low cost, and it has very less financial implications, and you get to that. So he says that when we apply this theory to our own life, so in personal lives, he says that this marginal cost doctrine impacts our lives as well when we have to choose between the right and wrong. So when we are at a crossroad and want to see what is right and wrong, so what happens is that a voice in our head says, look, that as a general rule, most people shouldn't do this. But in this particular extenuating circumstance. This is something very unique, one-time thing. So let me do it once only. So the marginal cost of doing something wrong only once is always low. So it suckers you in, it retracts you, and you don't ever look at where that path. You go for the wrong path. Oh, it's a small thing. I've been successful in the past. Now I'm doing something additionally incremental wrong, but then you never know what is the eventual cost you have to pay. So justification for this infidelity, disbelief, and dishonesty in all their manifestations lies in the marginal cost economics just once. So just this one syndrome. So Clayton tells his own story and how he understood it in his own life. He used to play in the Oxford University basketball team, and which was played very well. And in one season they went to the final, and the final was to be played on Sunday. And he was religious, and he had a personal commitment to God that he would not play on Sunday, and he will not be available. And as he told his coach and team members, the whole team was upset. They came to him and said, "You have to play. Can't you break the rule just once?" So Clayton said, "Let me reflect." He went to the room and prayed, and he said that after the prayer, I got a clear feeling that I shouldn't break my commitment. So he didn't play in the championship game. So based on this principle, Clayton says that infers that it was a small decision involving one of many Sundays which came in his life. And he said, I could have crossed that line on that day and not done it again. But when I look back, he says that just this once, it's okay. And this one okay model and this marginal thinking approach which he left on that day has proven to be one of the most important decisions of his life. He says that my life has been one unending stream of circumstances which keep on coming. Had I crossed that line once, he would have done it over and over. That's why he came up with this principle. It is easier to uphold your principles 100% of the time rather than 98%. If you give in to just this once, based on marginal cost analysis, you'll regret very well. So this is what he says his former classmates have done. So you have got to define yourself, what you stand for, and draw the line in a safe. So towards the end, Professor Clayton says that these high flyers and these career-oriented people, they end up in a top business school where your learning is coming from the best of the best professors who have impact factor, a lot of cases, guest speakers, industry people, which are much smarter than and experienced than you. So what happens is after graduation, the vast majority of people you interact with may not be smart. So what happens is you get arrogant, you don't like to be learning from them, and the learning stops. So he says the important thing is to be humble and have eagerness to learn something from everybody. And with this, he summarizes that the metric by which God will assess my life is not dollars, but the individual people whose life I have touched. Do not worry about the level of individual prominence you achieve. Worry about how much you have contributed. Worry about how much you have helped people become better people. So that is the real worry. And with this, I would like to conclude with this very important session for our university students and graduates and executive education people, that look, this is we have to reflect on and find out. And as a believer, I think it's something very interesting that Harvard Business School and his professor has highlighted, and I wish that this message goes on to the other universities as well, so that all of us have an intention to serve humanity. And he says that, as concluding remarks, this is my final. Think about the metric by which your life will be judged, and make a resolution and make a promise to live every day so that in the end your life will be judged a success. These successes which we face, they are milestones. So the success is to be happy, to be contributing, to be helping others each and every. So thank you very much, and looking forward to see you.